Grant Cardone just said the quiet part out loud.
You're white, male, in America, born in this country, and you ain't rich, you just don't want it.
Which was 100% a Freudian slip, kind of like the Joe Biden poor kids one.
Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids.
These days, I don't know what Grant Cardone is supposed to be classified as anymore. A salesman, investor, guru, scammer, maybe all the above.
I'll never forget, these guys paid $12,000 each to sit in that chair.
Oh.
Bruh.
$12,000.
I got very upset watching the video we're about to watch together. Actually, angry. I might start just shouting. It's a pitch! It's a pitch! This is arguably the worst advice I've ever seen given to young entrepreneurs. Anybody thinking about their finances, and that's saying a lot.
But if you don't know Grant, a few years back, he was really influential. I actually read and was really motivated by his book, 10X Rule, which was all about thinking big, expanding goals, and going harder.
You should put money in the marketing. You should promote yourself, not put money in where you and the kids live. A house does not make you money. Promote, promote, promote. If I die today, Elena and the kids will not have to worry about money.
Then around 2015-16, he showed up on the Bigger Pockets podcast, which is a real estate pod that I was listening to back when I was really building my real estate portfolio.
It's like, I mean, the money's so cheap right now.
Yeah. Really quick, on these, on the properties you're buying, obviously you're buying larger properties. Where are you finding them? How are you learning about them? Is that just through the agents that you speak to, or?
Yeah,
or
I mean, people know me as a closer. You know?
And again, the dude was inspiring and entertaining. He kind of came across like he was coked up. But not everything he said was factual or even made sense to most people. But his energy and drive to build wealth was contagious, at least for me. And I never really followed Grant too closely after that. But apparently somewhere along the line, he turned into a complete meme.
If I made $400 grand a year, I would be embarrassed with myself as a husband, a father, basically as a human being. 400 grand. How do you make sense of $35,000 a month? You guys haven't done the math. You have not done the math because you cannot live on 400 grand a year.
To the point that he now comes across like a completely out of touch rich guy who's just saying stuff for shock factor to get clicks.
Every 15-year-old kid should be doing this right now. If you're getting an allowance of $300 a month, buy a piece of real estate that pays you $30 a month. Only use the 30, don't touch the 300.
But how would a young, normal person get money?
Allowance, side jobs, side hustles. I was 14 years old. I was working every weekend. I was mowing lawns, doing whatever I could to get some extra money.
Hey, pal, you just blowing from stupid town?
Not to mention, dude is super MAGA.
MAGA! The MAGA people! The MAGAs! That's right, I'm MAGA!
But he says something that I really find interesting when it comes to the opportunity to build wealth, which is getting in certain doors, having relationships with certain people, and how easy it should be. Which to me all speaks to inherent white privilege.
Take 2 steps forward if you had access to a free tutor growing up. I want you guys up here in the front just to turn around and look. We would be foolish to not realize we've been given more opportunity. We don't want to recognize that we've been given a head start.
But I'm Jew. Welcome to the channel. Please like and share the video. Don't forget to sub. Now, let's get into it.
You're white, male, in America, born in this country, and you ain't rich, you just don't want it. You must be turning it away. I don't care if you're a fireman, a policeman, a nurse, you're a doctor, you're a lawyer, construction worker, roofer, HVAC. If you're not getting rich in America, it's because you don't want to get rich.
So what he's saying, whether it's incidental or not, is if you're white, the playing field is already leveled to your side for you to have advantages over everybody else. Because that's the only reason he singled out white men or white people specifically. But it's rare to never that we hear a white person actually say it.
It's here, man. Got plenty of opportunities. You're white. You're allowed in any room. To the other races, you guys should also get rich.
He had a full Joe Biden moment. To the other races, you guys should also get rich.
We have this notion that somehow if you're poor, you cannot do it. Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids. Wealthy kids.
It's the Freudian slips.
Black kids. Asian kids. No, I really mean it, but think how we think about it.
Green kids. Purple kids. Joe Biden was about to go down the rainbow.
But dumb it down. They can do anything anybody else can do given a shot.
Because there's proof and validation of too many people that come here that don't look like me that actually get rich.
He's talking about immigrants specifically. So I went to look up what specific benefits some immigrants may be up for. I went to the Office of Refugee Resettlement, which speaks to a certain type of immigration process. But you may be eligible for federal mainstream benefits, such as assistance through temporary assistance for needy families or supplemental security income, health insurance through Medicaid, and food assistance through SNAP. You may also be eligible for cash assistance, medical assistance, employment preparation, job placement, English language training, and other services offered through ORR. ORR provides funding to state governments, resettlement agencies, and other nonprofit community-based organizations to provide benefits and services to eligible individuals. You can look at some of this stuff which U.S. citizens aren't even eligible for. And if we're talking about the black community especially, cash assistance, medical assistance, employment preparation, and job placement. How many people struggling in the U.S. could benefit from that but aren't eligible for it? To be clear, black people have been far behind white people when it came to building wealth due to slavery in and of itself. Because black labor during slavery, during those 250 years of slavery, was completely free, which means white slave owners and every other institution that benefited from that free labor were allowed to make money and build wealth based off free labor, while black people weren't allowed to own anything and weren't free. In the year 2000, economist Robert S. Brown calculated that the income produced by enslaved people for their white owners prior to 1860 was between 1.4 trillion and 4.7 trillion in modern money. And when there was a slight hope of catching up through reparations, the government reneged. In 1865, at the conclusion of the Civil War that ended slavery, free slaves were promised 40 acres and a mule to build an economic future for themselves. But the government reneged on that deal, and black Americans started their free lives empty-handed. Imagine starting completely over from scratch. No money, nowhere to live, no education, no real work experience other than working in a field. Having to start over while the world around you just continues to move. By some estimates, that land will have been worth as much as $3.1 trillion today. Don't ever let anybody gaslight you that we're crying when we talk about slavery or the injustices that black people have had against them, especially when it comes to economic disparities. But the part that isn't really discussed too often, instead of black people receiving reparations that we were promised, they gave those reparations to white people. Just as free slaves were being denied the land promised to them, the U.S. government provided a wealth-building stimulus that overwhelmingly benefited white Americans. The Homestead Acts of the 1860s were meant to help settle the American West. Black people weren't excluded, but few had the resources to migrate, clear land, and set up farms. Kind of like how black soldiers or black veterans weren't excluded from the GI Bill because by law they had the GI Bill, but there were no American institutions that allowed them to use the GI Bill for schooling or buying a house because of Jim Crow. So when they took those GI Bills to banks to pay for school, to buy a house, they were denied, even though they legally had the GI Bill. It's estimated that about 15% of Americans today are descendants of mostly white original homesteaders who were granted 270 million acres of land, a tenth of the country's area, mostly seized from Native Americans. And when black people do build something, what little wealth black families were able to build after the Civil War was often violently destroyed. In a massacre in 1921, mobs of police officers in Tulsa, Oklahoma, burned down what was known as Black Wall Street, obliterating $200 million in homes and businesses and displacing 10,000 black residents. And we know that's not the only massacre when black people built something for themselves.
Here's a picture of all the black massacres that have occurred in America, and these massacres have occurred in black towns. Every time we created a town or safe space, it was burned down or all but destroyed by white people. Lake Lanier was once a thriving black town called Oscarville, resulting in the forced displacement of almost 2,000 black community members, and then it was later dammed and flooded to create Lake Lanier. They also did this in Cowaliga, Alabama. Seneca Village in Manhattan is the current day Central Park, was once a thriving black neighborhood that had its own post office, own towns, own banks, own schools. But then when it became too prosperous, they said eminent domain, and they created Central Park.
And that doesn't include things like redlining, where black people were told exactly where they could and couldn't live. And of course, those neighborhoods that black people were forced to live in didn't receive the same resources as white neighborhoods, which helped white neighborhoods' property values go up while black neighborhoods decreased over time. If we need something more recent, we can just go to hiring practices at somewhere like a mall. White, Asian, and Hispanic managers tend to hire more whites and fewer blacks than black managers do, according to a new study out of the University of Miami Business School Administration. Using more than 2 years of personnel personnel data from a large U.S. retail chain. The study found that when a black manager in a typical store is replaced by a white, Asian, or Hispanic manager, the share of newly hired blacks falls from 21 to 17%, and the share of whites hired rises from 60 to 64%. The effect is even stronger for stores located in the South, where the replacement of a black manager causes the share of newly hired blacks to fall from 29 to 21%. This is 100% anecdotal from my own experience, but I've always found that when black people were in charge, when they were the hiring managers or supervisors, they still didn't hire all black people. Their staff, or the people they hired, would end up kind of looking like the rainbow. Some white people, Latinos, Asians, black people. But on the other hand, it definitely seems when white people are hiring, they generally hire white people, whether they're qualified or not. And when it comes to these pay gaps with black people starting so far behind, they very rarely ever catch up to their white counterparts. In average, hourly wages for black and Hispanic men are $15 and $14 respectively, compared with $21 for white men. Only the hourly earnings for Asian men at $24 outpace those of white. And all of this kind of reminded me of that privilege exercise or experiment that happened like 8-10 years ago, where you step forward if you receive a certain privilege, and you can see how far back a lot of black people start.
Everybody line up, shoulder to shoulder, take off your backpacks. We are racing for a $100 bill. Before I say go, I'm gonna make a couple statements. If those statements apply to you, I want you to take 2 steps forward. If those statements don't apply to you, I want you to stay right where you're at. Take 2 steps forward if both of your parents are still married. Take 2 steps forward if you grew up with a father figure in the home. Take 2 steps forward.
Even right now, this is still hard to watch.
If you had access to a private education. Take 2 steps forward if you had access to a free tutor growing up. Take 2 steps forward if you've never had to worry about your cell phone being shut off.
And look, when they're stepping forward, they're not really looking behind them to see who they left or who didn't have the advantages they have. They're just stepping forward. And when you're in the front like that, you probably expect your life to be everybody else's life, right? Like everybody had the same opportunities, when that's just not the case.
Take 2 steps forward if you never had to help mom or dad with the bills.
This is tough.
Take 2 steps forward if it wasn't because of your athletic ability, you don't have to pay for college. Take 2 steps forward if you never wondered where your next meal was going to come from. I want you guys up here in the front just to turn around and look.
When you're forced to turn around and look at everybody who didn't have the same advantages of you, when you just got 20 steps ahead of them at the starting line.
Every statement I've made has nothing to do with anything any of you have done. We all know these people up here have a better opportunity to win this $100. Does that mean these people back here can't race? No. We would be foolish to not realize we've been given more opportunity. We don't want to recognize that we've been given a head start, but the reality is we have. Now, there's no excuse. They still got to run their race.
So these people up front is who Grant Cardone is talking about.
You're white, male, in America, born in this country, and you ain't rich, you just don't want it.
All you have to do is run your race in which you already got 20 steps of an advantage over everybody else.
They still got to run their race. You still got to run your race.
No matter what the gaslighting think pieces say online, black people do not have the same starting line in a race to build wealth as everyone else. There are doors that are open automatically for other groups, especially white people, that will never be open for us unless we sneak in or force them open through exceptional knowledge, talent, or connections that are willing to vouch for us to get us in those doors. Everybody knows this. They just refuse to admit it. The I got it out the mud narrative completely falls apart when the truth is most of these people were standing on solid ground the whole time. All they had to do was dust off their shoes and then shake the right hand. And there's nothing wrong with the black community pointing that out. We should be able to acknowledge our disadvantages while still moving forward, improving our credit, building our savings, investing for the future, and creating wealth. Because to know where you're going, you have to know where you've been. And that's why that clip from Grant Cardone matters so much. Because it accidentally acknowledges the truth that all black people have already known. We just aren't at the same starting line as everybody else. And we have to work and grind harder to catch up. But shout out to my channel members. Thank you so much for supporting, and thanks for watching. Y'all let me know what you think about all this in the comments. Also, make sure you check out the next video, and don't forget to follow me on Instagram for behind the scenes and life stuff, and I'll catch you next time. Peace.